just out of sight. But even as they go unnoticed, they can still put our health at risk, often drawn to food, moisture, and clutter. Pests can spread dangerous bacteria, trigger allergies, and also transmit diseases. In our homes, our workplaces, and even outdoors, pests are a serious health and safety threat. Knowing what to look for can help protect your health. Learn more at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association.
When a child is struggling with their mental health, the adults around them can make all the difference. Parents, teachers, coaches, anyone who shows up in a child's life. Because in those tough moments, kids are looking to the grown-ups around them for support.
If you're at school having a bad day, you just don't want to do anything.
I just get these thoughts like, do better. All my little emotions in my head is just running crazy. I don't know what to do.
As a teacher or coach, do you ever feel overwhelmed?
He's just in tears in the huddle. I was like, what's wrong? And he's just like, I'm just so frustrated and I didn't know what to do.
None of my undergraduate studies talked about mental health.
Teachers need tons of help.
That's why the Kids Mental Health Foundation provides free expert-developed tools and resources to help adults support the kids they care about.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Because when adults feel supported, kids do too. Kids Mental Health starts with us. Find free resources at kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org.
The number 3, one of the most important and powerful numbers on so many levels. And for your wallet, it's powerful at InstantRadioDeals.com. Enter the promo code FIRE at checkout for 33.3% off the list price of select items. Liberty Flames individual game tickets, Liberty Flames season tickets for the upcoming football season, and Hill City Howlers skyboxes and general admission with a $10 food voucher. All through the end of August. 33.3% off the list price of those items when you enter the promo code FIRE at checkout.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, and asking your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and JJ Hendrickson.
You probably heard the phrase water finds its level, and no, the inspiration for that did not come when I was in Alta Vista today and did the Trostall.com fast take at the park down by the river. Have you heard that phrase, by the way, JJ?
Yes, I have.
I'll use it in this context to start the fast lane. We do for you. Coaches acquiring players in this ridiculous landscape where we have to put regulations in place so that you cannot transfer from the NBA and the NFL back to college. What a world. I don't blame the coaches for exploring those options. The water finds its level. If some coaches are going to go about this, then other coaches that want to compete at a high level are going to go, well, they can bring in these type of players to get better, so we should have the opportunity to do the same. If anything, I sympathize with the coaches in the sense that, by and large, to me, unless it's allegations of murder, the Solomon Beebe allegations that they proved true at Virginia, hitting women, abusing kids, puppies, children, like that stuff is legitimate. But players getting compensated, to me, relatively speaking, doesn't bother me in the sense of, these are just, let's be real, young adults as players being influenced by other young adults, family members said in air quotes, agents, and then agents said in air quotes. Like, they're influenced by other adults. And if anything, I think the people that generally for years have had
lots of power,
the NCAA, the school presidents, they haven't wanted to share
lots of power,
and what comes with that,
dollar bills, y'all.
And so that's really the root of this. They have wanted the players to still be kids, not be adults, and not think like and behave like and be influenced by other people that are adults. And so I think if you look at this holistically, that's part of the root of the frustration with this. And the whole calls on Congress to solve it. That's because they just don't want to unionize or deal with players' unions and collectively bargain. Like, that's another solution. We got into it yesterday. Dave Glenn, North Carolina Sports Network.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
At Fastlane, Ed Lane, the audiogram versions are up because JJ's been on top of those, at Fastlane Ed Lane on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you can listen fully at however you listen to podcasts. But I kind of look at it in that context because I actually believe Tony Elliott, Virginia football coach, when he had this to say a day or two ago, I think it was yesterday. They're all blurring together at this point. Looking ahead to the week 0 matchup against NC State and why he's torn on NFL players transferring to college.
Man, I want to do what's best for college football. And I also want to do what's best for scholar athletes, right? And so whatever the best thing is, that's what I want the ACC to do.
The best thing for everyone. Well, the best thing for everybody is essentially to allow everybody to have a stay in this, right, JJ?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion and thoughts.
I know they're not technically employees, but that's because they don't want to have to pay payroll taxes, healthcare benefits after the career. It's not because these guys aren't getting paid. Let's get it clear here. It's because, again, the people who have
Lots of power.
are skirting ways to have to give up
Lots of power.
and
Dollar bills, y'all.
any more than they already are realizing. They basically have to do that. Coaches just want consistency.
What I want is consistency, and then also to just thoughtful decisions to be made, kind of looking at the unintended consequences.
Because the thing is, essentially, if you're a coach, you're hired to win games, by and large. Now, there's an element of don't embarrass the university. I know this may be sensitive, but I don't mean this as a slight against Liberty AD Ian McCall. I don't think this was as much his deal. But like if you're Art Briles, because again, Art Briles had
Lots of power.
much more than Ian McCall at Baylor, but we're using it as an example. That's some dismissal of the coach stuff. But as much as we can poke fun at Will Wade, Lane Kiffin, Kim Mulkey, insert your jokes about LSU, or let's be real here, I'll throw the U up for Miami because they've done some tampering, or Texas Tech or other programs. All in all, it's just adults behaving like adults, which is selfishly in their best business interest. And to me, I wish it was cleaner and more organized. It doesn't stop me from watching the games, JJ, but I generally speaking have no issue with it because basically the adults in the room are now mad and struggling to adapt to the fact that the athletes have kind of caught up and realized what it takes to get on their level and operate the same way.
Yeah, I absolutely get the point of view that you don't want these guys to be coming back to college athletics. I mean, at the end of the day, they are technically professionals at that point. They've been paid. They've been paid throughout all college, but they've been paid by an NFL team or an NBA team at that point. They're a professional athlete. But when you look at it from the head coach's perspective, to your point, they're hired to win games. And if you're going to get players who give you an opportunity to win more games, be better, get more eyes on the school, generate more revenue, they're going to do that every time. And you can't really blame them for it at the end of the day.
James Franklin, Virginia Tech head football coach, had this to say a couple of days ago when he spoke with the media and whether or not Virginia Tech would consider some of these players who are getting injunctions for a fifth year, including those that may or may not have been in NFL camps.
It has to be an option. Again, if you want to compete in major college football, you can't say that we're not going to do things that give us a chance to be highly competitive when other schools are. Like, these are the things, to me, when you say you want to compete at the very highest level, you can't say, okay, we're going to compete in these three things and not the other things. And everybody's got to be bought into that, right? And there's challenges. That's where some of the schools that are on the quarter system that don't start school until the week 4 of the season, they got some advantages from that standpoint. But yeah, you're going to have to do some.
You can't pick and choose, essentially. You got to be willing to go all in. And again, there are extraneous circumstances. Art Briles at Baylor, Jameis Winston at Florida State. I know people love him for his media antics, but people forget what happened at Florida State. Like, those to me are situations where you have to, at some point, somebody's got to step in and say, okay, we can't tolerate that. But if it's just what it takes to win from a raw business economics transaction, nobody's getting hurt by the money being exchanged. Everybody's voluntarily deciding whether they spend the money or not. Sure, some programs are getting cut and losing out. But again, these are all kind of mature adult decisions. And the people that may have their programs cut, they can often transfer and go to other opportunities. They can stick around at the school and not play sports. Like, this is part of making grown-up decisions, is you're often going to have to make sacrifices, and things don't often end the way they were presented to you. That happens in business all the time. That's why contracts exist. It is what it is. But I'm with James Franklin in the sense that if you're Virginia Tech, you can't cherry pick and use this as the moral high ground to stand on. If it's legitimately immoral behavior, I get it. Stand on that high ground and say, we don't want certain activities. Baylor, Jameis Winston, pick your example there. But when it comes to just paying players, you can't cherry pick. If you're a coach, your job is to get the best players within the rules and within the essential big picture morals of the school. I know you'll take some character flyers to an extent, but within the bigger picture concept, that's what your job is. I don't blame James Franklin one bit.
I mean, yeah, to quote the movie Moneyball, Ed, adapt or die. It's really as simple as if you don't do these things to bring in these players, pay high money, you're going to fall behind competitively. And Virginia Tech, they're scrambling. They're trying to get back to a point where they're in the upper echelon of the ACC. Obviously, haven't been there for a few years now. If they just choose to not bring some of these guys in because of morality, they're going to fall behind and they won't get back to that upper echelon of the ACC that they're trying so hard to get to.
100% they are. James Franklin elaborated on this a little bit more by mentioning that, we need access to the same edges that everyone else has, or else they've got the edge, we don't, and we fall behind.
We have to be able to compete in every area with every other school in the country, and that is from a football perspective, that is from a scholarships, that is from a funding, and that is from a flexibility standpoint too.
Which is why James Franklin keeps riding Virginia Tech and was part of the hire of Brian White, the athletic director, part of the additional staff that's been brought on board. And now they've announced a new committee, and we'll get to that a little bit later in segment 2 around 5:20 today in the Fast Five at 5-ish. But you're doing all these things that are there. Let's call a spade a spade. And you can poke fun at Virginia Tech for this. You better not be wearing any baby blue North Carolina apparel, because James Franklin elaborated on this. Schools have restructured their academics to accommodate being able to add players at any time.
A lot of schools have literally started carrying extra courses that don't start until the midpoint of the semester, for this very reason. So whether it's the spring transfer portal or whether it's the fall situation that we're in now, the flexibility to get guys into school and still have classes that they're able to get into.
Essentially, and you can laugh about the class part. I can't believe we even have somebody who's bringing up the concept of classes. But, James Franklin did, but with the caveat of it needs to be something that's conducive to the direction of the football program. Again, you can collectively bargain with the players and just say, hey, if you go to a school here, you've got the access to an education whenever your tenure wraps up. That's part of it. So then when you're at school, you are literally majoring in your sport. And I wouldn't do this for every sport. I'd do it for the revenue generation ones where, again, they're judged on a different scale. The money being paid to them is greater. So the access is different. But, you can laugh at Virginia Tech, but, isn't that what North Carolina did back in like the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, to keep Dean Smith's basketball players and some of the other players all the way through the Julius Pepper tenure at Carolina, Butch Davis in that era? Didn't they have the African-American studies where there were sham classes? And I know they were, quote, available to all students, end quote, which is another way of saying the NCAA did not want to punish Carolina hoops, even if they were willing to do it to Carolina football. Like, I understand you had that there, but that was a blueprint, and now other schools are just more brazen. How often have you looked at, I don't think they put the majors up on games anymore, JJ. But were you alive when they would list what the major of the player was on their, they would highlight a player that makes a tackle or a big play or hits a big bucket in basketball, and they list the major on the byline, if you will.
Yeah, I think I remember that. It feels like a long time ago. I was probably in elementary or middle school the last time I saw that.
Dude, they'd have guys that had general studies. Can you convince me that general studies is a legitimate major or is a keep him eligible major?
Oh, that's absolutely a keep him eligible major. General studies, what are you going to do with that degree? That's not even a degree, is it?
No, it literally screams keep him eligible. And you can have legitimate courses and classes where there's skills, but you're also in sports. But again, there are ways to make this clearer. Essentially, it goes back to a couple things. Tony Elliott mentioned this. Like it or not, there's a win at all costs element that just exists. Maybe not in all college athletics, but the higher you go and the more exchange of money from school to player, essentially, is being put out there, the more this mindset takes place.
Unfortunately, we're in a very highly competitive industry, a very lucrative industry, and people want to win. And the sad thing is, it's becoming more acceptable to do whatever it takes to win. And that's the sad part about it, because I don't believe that's the example that we really want to set for young people through athletics. We want to teach them through the game, how to really deal with the adversities in life.
I agree with Tony Elliott on that. And I don't think he's even in a spot where he's saying Virginia is not playing the game. Look at the results at Virginia, for example. Virginia Tech's getting there with James Franklin. He's clearly pushing for it. Virginia's already done that. They're playing the NIL game. They retained pretty much anybody they wanted back from the men's basketball roster. They're expected to be top 4 in the ACC. I think that's very reasonable for year 2 of Ryan Odom. Virginia football, they've played the NIL and transfer game. Last year's team, again, at the William & Mary game last year, when they bludgeoned William & Mary, never close. I went down on the field and was like, this does not look like the same Virginia team that I'd seen in prior years. And one of the persons on the field just said, yeah, $20 million will change a lot. That's what Virginia's playing it. I think you'd like to be able to balance both, but JJ, winning is taking on a different form. Again, I don't begrudge anybody. I think if you really want to, you can stay to school for a period of time. You can still focus on the academic portion. Even if you accept transfers, you can still find a way to find guys that care about it. It's not going to be the case at every program, certainly. But, if you wanted to do it a different way, again, collectively bargain and just say, hey, you're going to be on scholarship when your career is done. That's when your academic timeline kicks in.
Yeah, when it comes to that winning at all costs mentality that we're seeing more and more in college athletics, I think something that's really interesting to consider is look at a school like UVA. They had a very good year last year, were ranked in the top 25 all year, but they came up just a little bit short. When you're in that position, you're going to have so much more pressure from your fans, the university, everyone as a whole, to get that little extra step to take you to that next level, the ACC championship. And so if an opportunity presents itself to pay one of these big name guys, you're going to do it every time because of that increased pressure to get that last little bump that's going to get you to the competitive level that you're aiming to be at.
I look, again, it's what the job requires, and it's why you're bringing them on board. And above anything else, it's easy to sit there and look at a Daquan Wright, for example. I don't blame him, and I don't blame his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. Rosenhaus's job is to get him as much money as possible. Wright's trying to maximize his window while there's a chance. Even Tony Elliott acknowledged it. Look, if he was in the player's shoes, he'd be doing the same thing.
If I could keep getting money transferred into my account, from somebody else, I think I would, right? And all of us would, right? You start to, you're like, hey, well, if it becomes more acceptable and socially normal, then people are gonna do it. But is it the right thing to do? I'm kind of torn because I want to do right by both sides. And right now it's hard to kind of get to that state because we got so much change.
I want to do right by both sides, but Tony Elliott's implicitly acknowledging, look, he's going to do as much as he can. He knows UVA operates differently. As long as the fans and administration realize you're more likely to be a 9 to 10 win team that may make the playoffs, maybe not, as opposed to an 11 to 12 win team that routinely makes it. And that's kind of the trade-off of having some standards versus not. Especially in the ACC. We know who may not have those standards, but oftentimes has been competing at a high level, including making the college football championship game last year, operating on a different playing field. And yes, I threw the U up for that. That's what, if you understand what you're getting into, you're cool with it. But again, there are ways to solve this, and there are even ways to keep guys around academically while this is going on, but you can't expect coaches to not sit there and want to do what's best for their team and players because they have to sell a locker room, but they also have to find a way to keep on winning games.
Of course, especially when you look around and like that school you mentioned, Miami, Ohio State, LSU, these big name schools that are doing these things are the ones who are playing in the biggest game of the year. I mean, Indiana, I don't think had many moral questions around them, but still they had a lot of older guys, old transfers come in to help them win that national championship last year. So it really comes down to, do you want to be morally correct? Or do you want to win as many football games as possible? And that's a debate that I don't love that we're having in college athletics, but it's just the reality of the situation at this point.
Yeah, that's the reality of where we are. Meanwhile, when we return in the fast lane, there's a lot of little nuggets of breaking news that we get to in the Fast Five at 5-ish. And then fan feedback. It has been coming in hot and heavy on the Liberty Flames and their lack of quarterback decision. I mean, I get it. Fan is short for fanatic. We're about to find out why next in the fast lane.
Your front row seat to Central Virginia sports starts at the News in Advance. Follow every high school showdown, hear the stories from the area's prep stars, and get exclusive game day reporting on the Liberty Flames. From Friday Night Lights to Division I action, newsadvance.com will always deliver the final scores, in-depth stories, and video highlights that drive our community. Don't miss a single play. Stay connected to the teams you love. Subscribe today at newsadvance.com.
Plenty of large insurance companies know something. If you're injured in an auto accident, it can feel overwhelming. They've defended themselves in thousands of personal injury cases while you've never been there. Thankfully, I have. Hi, I'm Dustin Rosser with Trost Law. I began my legal career defending insurance companies before joining Trost Law. I know how insurance companies think and how to navigate the complex legal system. So if you're injured and need someone to fight for you, just call me at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
End zone, light them up, touchdown Liberty.
The atmosphere at a game is amazing. It is like family.
I've been a season ticket holder for 14 seasons. The atmosphere is electric.
On the near sideline.
It's an experience. You look forward to every week.
I like the pageantry, the band.
The pride of knowing that this is our university.
2026 Flames football season tickets are on sale now. Get yours at lufootball.com.
Hey, y'all, Mike Burnip here. Start jumping. This is your home for the Hokies. VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, and the VTRN Sports app.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Oh, we'll get to the fan feedback. It's rather entertaining. But we have other things, including continuing with our conversation just a moment ago in...
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish? Because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
Remember, when they head out onto the field in Baton Rouge, they don't tap something like play like a champion today or behave like a champion today. The only thing they tap is a sign that says win. And let's be real, that's what they care about down in Baton Rouge. The latest example is, according to CBS Sports, LSU proactively recruited multiple NFL hopefuls to sue the NCAA in hopes of winning the right to return to college football if and when they were cut in training camp. And I think we can add on to this, JJ, that this is only happening this year because there was a delay in the NCAA enforcing the 5-for-5 rule where if you knew about this back in January, players may not have entered the NFL draft, gone down this path. They may have just stayed in college or tested the waters and then returned before the draft actually happened and have an actual case as opposed to getting drafted, starting to report to a team. Again, this could have been avoided. LSU doing this, I think, again, they're just looking for a loophole, and I'm imagining they're not the only one who tried this.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones looking for a loophole, and I think they've had the most success so far. I feel like every player just about we've heard who's gone from either the NFL to college football or the NBA back to college basketball, it's been LSU just about every time. We heard RJ Lewis the other day. He was a man who was involved in real-life NBA trades, transactions. He's trying to go back to LSU, and as soon as it happened, I texted you. I said, look who it is. It's LSU once again. So they're doing whatever they can to find these loopholes, and I think they might end up eating.
Yeah, they might. The rules keep breaking down, which we'll get us to.
Number 4.
What updates do you have today? Everybody's passing legislation trying to prevent this from happening. The SEC was 16-0, quote unquote, in terms of the unanimous vote. I don't know if it was actually 16-0 or if it was Greg Sankey, the commissioner, grandstanding and really twisting some arms down in Baton Rouge of, you will agree to this because this is what happens in our conference and we keep our issues out of the spotlight. Kind of the old Mike's Live, don't snitch on somebody for paying players under the table. We can all just do this and get money rather than bringing it to light. Kind of wonder if there was some of that going on. What other developments other than it looks like everybody is starting to put some regulations in place, including in the ACC that happened today where they have rules that if you violate the professional sports rule that's now in place, it's a 50% suspension for head coaches. 50% of that sport's annual operating budget is paid in a fine, and SEC voting privileges on business matters will get revoked. All of that makes sense. I just wonder when schools and players might collaborate to, again, challenge this in court until we get to congressional legislation, which looks like it's delayed because Congress is not in session, or, wait for it, gasp for it, collective bargaining.
Yeah, I think collective bargaining has to be the best solution at this point. But to hear that these guys, I mean, what are we talking? This is a very, very harsh punishment. If there's one thing that's going to stop people from bringing professional sports back or professional athletes back to college sports, it's punishment like this. 50% of a coach suspension on the year, 50% of your operating budget. They are striking, bringing down the hammer to make sure this does not become a regularity going forward.
Meanwhile, speaking of finances and schools involved in college athletics at the Power 4 level,
Number 3.
the Virginia Tech Board of Visitors approved of Ted Hansen, who is part of the class of 91, to serve as its representative on the 10-member board of directors for Hokie Ventures, marking what is deemed to be another step forward in development of university-affiliated revenue generation, which is essentially what this is. 10 board members, I'm a little puzzled by that. I think oftentimes of 9 or 11 or 7, some odd number to have a dissenting vote being cast, although who knows, maybe the privilege of being the board director's head is you maybe get extra voting power. I don't know how this works. Please forgive me. I do find it interesting that outgoing president Tim Sands and current athletic director Brian White are both on this as opposed to the full new guard at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. But once again, Brian White doing whatever he can to bring more revenue generation to Blacksburg and Virginia Tech as a whole. I think that's pretty much what he's doing as a whole as an athletic director. That's his whole goal this year, is to generate as much revenue as possible. And with this hire, this decision, I mean, he might just do more of that.
Yeah, you might easily get to that point. That's what he's brought in to do, is creatively find ways to generate revenue. Meanwhile, we'll pivot over to
Number 2.
NASCAR with a local angle. The reports have come out today that added races for the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts, that's the Busch Xfinity Series, AAA of NASCAR. Added races in the schedule in 2027. North Wilkesboro, which I love, it already had a truck and a cup date. Now it gets an Xfinity O'Reilly, whatever date you want to call it, during that All-Star weekend in mid-May. And Richmond, in that first weekend of the NASCAR chase, will also have a date in the Xfinity O'Reilly, whatever series you want to call it. I love it. I kind of felt like Richmond was missing that extra series this past weekend with the trucks being off this series, the Xfinity, off multiple weeks in a row. The 2 dates that are dropped are Atlanta. They'll have 1, but not 2. And then Rockingham, which we knew about, but unfortunately could not be on the schedule just because there's so much ownership changes. It seems like Rockingham, they would like to find a way to keep it on, but you got to have your business tied up. I mean, this is big boy business in NASCAR. I want there to be a way for it to stay on, but I'm not necessarily shocked that NASCAR is not waiting for Rockingham to get their affairs in order. If you don't have them in order, there will be another suitor, and that's the nature of how these things go.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to Richmond, I mean, I'm a casual NASCAR viewer, but does adding this date, would that affect the time of the race next year for the Cup? Would it no longer be a Saturday night kind of thing, or is it separate?
No, it would be a Saturday night deal. I think you're more looking like there would be a scenario where one of these races, the Trucker, the Xfinity, O'Reilly, whatever you want to call it, those 2 series, one of them would be Friday night, the other would be Saturday. You might even have a doubleheader on Friday preluding into a Saturday evening race. I think that's more likely to be the case, but the Cup is always going to get deferential based on what is beneficial for both TV partners and for grandstand and attendance revenue generation.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I know the Saturday night race was a big hit this year. It's sold out, so I think that's something they should continue to going forward.
Number 1.
Meanwhile, Candy Waller has been preaching ad nauseum about this in our chats on Monday's editions of Covering the Commonwealth.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
But the Commanders needing to find solutions to their offensive line. DJ Humphries, 1-year deal, depth piece. I do think you have to have a backup option if Brandon Coleman doesn't work out at left tackle. I don't think the Commanders are done looking for offensive linemen and guys that might be able to particularly handle the center position while you wait on Nick Allegretti to get ready and be fully healthy to come back for that. To me, this is a start for the Commanders. Look, Humphries is available in mid-August for a reason. He's not an elite left tackle, even though he has made, quote, 1 Pro Bowl, end quote. And it's also a 1-year deal, meaning this is clearly screaming Band-Aid option, but you got to try certain things for the Commanders and see if you can scheme your way around these deficiencies at this point in the year.
Yeah, Brandon Coleman is certainly going to be the starter on that left side with Laramie Tunsil's absence. DJ Humphries, as you mentioned, this is a depth signing. You need like 8 good offensive linemen. You know there's going to be injuries. You need to build that up. And there was actually reports coming out of the Commanders' joint practice versus the Ravens today that the Commanders' offense had their worst performance in years, and it was due to a, quote, inoperable offensive line. So hopefully DJ Humphries' arrival settles that down a little bit. But as things are looking now, I'm a little concerned for Jaden Daniels' durability going into the season, Ed.
He's going to have to be on like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Matt Stafford processing level to get rid of the ball quickly because, there may not be time to scramble around.
Yeah, I know he does that VR training where he watches football plays and like double speed to process as quickly as possible. So he may need to tick that speed up a little more from the sounds of what he's going to be playing behind with his offensive line this year.
I love that suggestion. Clearly one that might need to be taken into consideration. Before we get to Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com, time for a smidge of fan feedback.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, it's time for fan feedback in the Fast Lane.
Oh my goodness. We finally have it happened. TJ and Ty, both wanting to know, yes, former VTRN family members here in the Fast Lane. What do I think of the NFL finally getting rid of the Pro Bowl? I put the emphasis on finally for a reason. I am not an all-star games guy, JJ, in any sport. I think they've lost their luster. Players don't seem to want to care or play hard. Maybe in the Major League All-Star game, but the rest of the sports, they'd rather be somewhere else. If they don't care, why should I? Football is the height of that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely glad the Pro Bowl is gone. I think the Pro Bowl specifically might be the worst all-star game out of all the major sports here in America. It absolutely needed to go. I don't think I have watched one in the last 5+ years. It's just not entertaining. There's no value. We don't have the Sean Taylor hits on punters running fake punts anymore. The guys just don't care. So like you said, why should we?
Meanwhile, other bits of fan feedback that have come in. Liberty Flames, we've had a couple of different thoughts. There's confidence in the running game. You know, Wes Estes chimed in on Twitter. Look at that beast, Cam Davis, a.k.a. Big Arms Davis. And another chime in on that, by the way, when it comes to the Liberty Flames and what they have in the running back room in particular. I mean, you know, it's fascinating because people are bringing that particular point up. But one of them is just, you know, when you look at somebody that's that big, there's faith in the running game. I would go, yes, faith in the running game for the Liberty Flames. I think that's what the offense wants to do, and it's kind of what they have to do, not only unsettled at quarterback, but it's what the offensive staff does really well.
Yeah, and from what we've heard, they're looking for a game manager at quarterback. So having a running game behind you, having a huge running back, I mean, think of how much confidence a guy like Derrick Henry brings to the Ravens. And I'm not saying he's going to be Derrick Henry for Liberty, but just having the confidence that you can turn around and hand him the ball, he's going to get you 3-4 yards just due to his size. I think that's going to be huge for Liberty.
So, you know, this is where I differ from certain fans, though, the coach speak part. Charles chimes in, if this team isn't fundamentally ready at this point, they never will be. Not encouraging words at all from Jamie Chadwell when we played them yesterday in the Fast Lane. And they're up at Fastlane Ed Lane on our socials. I back off that a bit in this sense. You got a week or so left, 9 practices as of yesterday when Jamie Chadwell spoke with the media. I think there's some gamesmanship that's been going on a lot of this. You're looking for ways to keep your players locked in mentally with, it can be good, but the distraction of classes coming in, students back on campus. You're tired of hitting against each other. You don't have preseason games. You just have scrimmages. I think all that factors into a completely different era and why you're looking for edges. And some coaches use the media. I know people may not believe this, but they use it to communicate to their fans and to their players, knowing that those people will pay attention.
Yeah, we're getting to the point. I feel like gamesmanship is the only explanation for Chadwell here. It's just getting to a point where we're just so close to that JMU game that I think he definitely knows more about his team and he's more confident in them than he's letting on. Like you said, he's just trying to communicate to them to keep the foot on the gas, keep fighting, keep engaged, because like you said, no joint practices, no preseason games, anything like that. You got to find these little motivating factors to keep your team going.
Now, I get the level of fan concern to a certain extent. Torrey has added, we've heard this same speech for 3 seasons. Fundamentals problem, no solid lead at quarterback, inconsistency, etc. doesn't provide much confidence. And then Kelly adds, I have a bad feeling about this season. Watch the Flame Central podcast. Matt Warner and Emily Austin are part of that. Matt breaks down the numbers for quarterbacks and why it's not pretty for Liberty. Again, I think there are multiple factors going in. I think the big thing for me is I look at it this way. Everybody knows this is a bit of a hot seat time for Jamie Chadwell. I think even he's aware. I know there's the health issues, but you're also paying a guy handsomely and he's well-resourced at this level. At some point, the rubber's got to meet the road. And I think everyone kind of realizes that. And we'll get a tell, if not at JMU in week 1, certainly in the next couple of weeks after that.
Yeah, the pressure is absolutely mounting on Jamie Chadwell, and everything he's saying, I mean, it's not winning the fans over. And I know the fans have no effect on coaching decisions. They're going to keep him if they think he's good, but what he's saying is not winning anyone over. And I do think it's gamesmanship, like I said, but I'm really curious what his angle is at this point in time.
Meanwhile, what's the angle of Bryson Gordon on the Liberty Flames quarterback situation, as well as the Dogwood and Seminole districts? He will share his thoughts when we return next here in the Fast Lane.
Mark Dalton here with the Terry Auto Group. If you don't love your car, then you're simply just driving the wrong one. At Terry Volkswagen, Terry Subaru, Terry Auto Outlet, and the Terry Clearance Center, we've got the perfect new or used car for you. We make your car buying experience easy. Need help with imperfect credit? No problem. Our team works hard to get you approved and back on the road. Because when you shop at Terry, you drive away happy. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or online at terryautogroup.com. Terry Auto Group. You'll love our cars.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, the healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
Time to share great food and fun. Just to be there the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's. We'll see you at the Do's.
Hey guys, this is Chad Hassan with ASeaofRed.com. ASeaofRed.com is the #1 trusted independent news source for Flames sports. You can get access to premium content such as the Rumor Mill by becoming an ASeaofRed.com club member for only $84 a year. If you are a diehard Liberty Flames fan and want all the inside scoop, along with coverage of recruiting and all the major sporting events over at LU, visit ASeaofRed.com. Go Flames.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Well, Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com was there yesterday for all the press conference glory for the Liberty Flames. We will get to that right now, and then we will pivot over to Dogwood and Seminole District season outlooks as well as week 1. It's actually just week 1, regular season, in just a moment. BG back with us once again from newsadvance.com here in the Fast Lane. Bryson, a pleasure to have you chat. First of all, we made it. It's basically football week, at least for us, because high school football counts.
It is pretty much the season. I mean, the season is here, whether you want it to be or not. We're going to be at games in 2 days, and in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks now, we'll be at JMU. So I mean, it's going to be. And as I tell everybody, December will be here before we know it. We'll be at Liberty Arena, or as you call it, Bel Air. So just a couple short months away from that too.
Yes, we're not far off. The grind is back, but it's a good kind of grind. Liberty football. Fans are upset. I get it. They're coming off 2 disappointing seasons. Are you on board with them that it doesn't look good when you're talking about quarterback indecision, penalties and challenges in practice, or do they need maybe to tamper it down a smidge at Fastlane, Ed Lane, and Bryson Gordon on the Twitter accounts for fan feedback in the sense of, first of all, you appreciate their passion. It's part of what helps our jobs exist. But there's an element of gamesmanship of both keeping your team motivated and keeping the JMU Dukes off guard.
I think there's a little bit of both of that. You mentioned the reaction that you see on Twitter. I think certainly Twitter, and I think probably social media in general, the Facebook crowd is pretty similar as well. I think a lot of the social media and a lot of the chatter around Liberty this year, at least kind of the way the fall camp has been kind of pessimistic at this point. At least the way that Chadwell's talking about the team. You could, as you mentioned, you could chalk that up to him kind of playing coy with JMU, who's also doing a lot of the similar stuff. You go listen to what Billy Napier said about his team and his quarterback situation earlier in the week. He didn't seem as glowing or as not glowing as Chadwell was about his situation. And so I think you're going to see both coaches dance around it until they play each other next week. I mean, at this point, if you're looking at it from our perspective, like, what's the point of Chadwell naming a quarterback at this point? You've taken it this far without giving a guy the confidence and giving him the early boost of saying this is our guy and we're gonna ride with him. You've dragged it out this far. At least externally, you've dragged it out this far. What's the point of announcing a guy at this point? Why not take it all the way up until game time, or I'll take it all the way up until Thursday or Friday, like he did last year with the Ethan Vasco situation? And so I think there's, a whole lot of reasons at this point that he's probably not being, very forthcoming by the quarterback situation. But in general, the pessimism, or at least the tone that he is striking with what he's talking about when he mentions consistency. I mean, that's something that you can play it on a record every single week, every single Tuesday that we go in there. He's talking about the consistency of the quarterback position. It seems like he has real problems with that, and that's kind of what all of these quarterbacks have struggled with in their careers. And so, if you're somebody who wants to deduce from that this is going to be a disappointing season when you put all those factors together, I could see how you come to that conclusion. But I think that you also have to weigh it into account, as you mentioned. You're so close to kickoff. You've made it this far without giving away who your quarterback is going to be. You might as well continue to play a little coy on that.
You were the one, Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com, who asked running back Cam Davis about the recruiting pitch to get to Liberty University and the feature of running backs and the history this staff has with them. How much is that something that fans might want to keep in the back of their mind, which is, quarterback right now, it seems like will be more likely to be asked to not make mistakes and help the running game thrive?
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it as well, as like, what does this team kind of know about itself? What does the coaching staff and what do the play callers know about themselves? Well, they know that they have a strong running back room. And so as all of us media people, as we tend to do, and as fans tend to do, as they gravitate towards the quarterback position, because it's what draws all the eyes, I think a lot of people would pay attention and would kind of mention about this team as well, is that the running back position is going to be really strong. I mean, they're going to have Cam Davis, who I think has the potential to be, in that 750 to 1,000 yard rushing category. Certainly Kanye Udo's done that at this level. Peyton Jones is somebody that they're really touting as a guy who could, play some receiving role out of the backfield, as well as, being active on the ground. And so I think they're really excited about the running back room. And so while we all are paying attention to what is going to happen at quarterback, whether it's Purdy, whether it's Henderson, whether, he may just say, I'm giving the keys to Jake and Davis and he's got the program for the next 3 to 4 years and we're going to go that way. He could do something crazy like that. I think while we're all, hamstrung over, what's going to happen at quarterback, I think the team confidently and quietly feels really good about what they have at running back. And I think that's always been their strength under Chadwell. I think it's certainly going to be their strength again this year. I think that's why you see Chadwell harping so much on consistency. Like, if they can just protect the football, if they have quarterbacks who don't put the ball in harm's way and can just get their running backs the football, you can see why this could be a team that is due, as a lot of people expect, that would be due for a bounce back season.
We do not play sound bites in the middle of our chat with guests very often, but this is partially to promote a great article at newsadvance.com and partially because there's a level of amusement to this one from Cam Davis that we'll ask BG about in a moment.
Football is football. So I would say the biggest adjustment is just getting closer to God. I was at Florida State. It's a town and city that is full of distractions. So it's here. I've been a lot more locked in. I've been going to church a lot more. So for me, that's kind of been the biggest thing I had to adjust in my life. And that's something that I feel like I needed, something that I feel like has made me a better man. So
2 parts to that from Cam Davis. First of all, we'll get to the article of Bryson Gordon at newsadvance.com in just a second. How amused were you by the way he phrased it? Lots of distractions in Tallahassee.
I love the way he phrased it. I mean, you got to love the candidness from some of these players. Some of these guys will never give you anything, but at least he gives you in a little bit. He could say it a lot of different ways, but he was very, wise to say distraction there. And I think he's right. Lynchburg doesn't have the distractions of I've never been to Tallahassee, Florida. I've never been to Florida State, but I can't imagine that it's a distraction-free zone as much as Lynchburg can be whenever you want to, get away and isolate yourself a little bit around here. And so I think it was so funny to hear him say that, but it was so great to hear him say that because as you heard him talk about, he's very open about, what his faith-based, what the faith-based aspect of all this is going to do for him as far as a player. It's going to help him focus on football, might unlock a better version of him, probably going to help him, be a healthier and, committed guy to the team. And so I think in general, it was a cool thing to hear a player just kind of be open with you like that of like, hey, maybe I'm not built for the bright lights of a place like Tallahassee whenever you're in the ACC football, but he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. A very well-spoken guy from what all the other guys on the team say and what the coaches have said about in terms of him being a leader. And so I think you're going to look for him to be kind of one of those mature voices and one of those veteran voices on this team this year.
You've shed some light into how Cam Davis can impact the Liberty Flames this year by your article at newsadvance.com. BG, Do you believe that he's now in a spot where maybe we see him take that Quentin Cooley role? People may compare him to Evan Dickens, but to me, he's more Quentin Cooley because let's be real, with biceps like that, he's kind of built like it.
Yeah, he was really big guy. I mean, he was in there yesterday. It was very, he's going to be a physical runner. I told you, I think I would not want to try to get down and tackle him if he was coming downhill with the football. And so I think he's one of the guys that's really going to emerge as a very important short yardage back and certainly a red zone back for this team. I really don't know. I mean, we don't see enough of practice to have a super confident feeling about how the running back room is going to shake out. But there are just so many options in this room that I think that somebody is going to emerge to be the leader of it all. But I just think that in general, there's going to be enough people in this room to pull touches from each other to where there's nobody that puts up the level that you saw from Quentin Cooley that was like 1,400 yards his first year, or Evan Dickens that was 1,300 yards this past year. I don't think you're going to quite see that, but I think you see a level of depth where you're going to have a couple guys, get upwards to 800 to 1,000 yards. But in general, with Davis's role, you mentioned Quentin Cooley. In the article you mentioned, if Evan Dickens is lightning, I think Davis is going to be thunder. He's going to be the short yardage back. He's going to be a guy that they can rely on when it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2 in short yardage situations. They need to run the ball.
Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com, is stopping by with us here in the Fast Lane, touching quite a bit on the Liberty Flames right now, and we've looked at where things go. The last one is this. Are you holding your breath that we'll even get clarity on the quarterback? Will we get more of an optimistic tone? What's going to be the tone of our next media availability next week with Jamie Chadwell and it being JMU game week?
It'll be interesting because, like you just said, it'll be game week. I mean, at that point, you're in the throes of preparing for a team like JMU, who we know nothing about. I mean, you read, the beat writing over there. I think Katie Harper does a good job for the DNR and everybody over there. It's just kind of open. Everything is open for them. At this point, quarterback battle is open. All their position battles are kind of pretty open for the most part. And so, I think in general with this team, if Liberty can go in with a sense of mystery at this point, you might as well take it in. I still personally think, you earn something by giving a quarterback a little bit of confidence at this point. It's not a whole lot of confidence to name them at this point, especially given everything that he's said publicly about the consistency level and kind of what he's not seen from the position. But I think that if you were to go out this weekend, maybe he has one last big practice on Saturday, wraps things up and says, hey, I've got my guy. This is my guy. We're going into game week and we're building around him. It kind of felt like that's how things culminated with Vasco at the home stretch last year. I think that would be really good for this team because it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of confidence projected into that position room right now. And I think before you go into that game against JMU, it's going to be a really hostile environment. I think you need to project some confidence into that quarterback room before you go in there.
Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com is hanging out with us today in the Fast Lane. Lots of great articles up on the Liberty Flames at newsadvance.com, as well as high school football. And we will get to the games this weekend. BG has his 4 storylines to watch article up at newsadvance.com, and we'll touch on that in a moment. First of all, district previews. We'll start in the Dogwood, where, again, to get my usher on for a moment in the Fast Lane, as I must confess that with broadcasting Jefferson Forest Cavalier football presented by TroSlaw.com on our sister station 100.9 FM, and by the way, coming this year, VTRN Virginia Talk Radio Network on Facebook Live, in addition to all the other ways, I don't get to see the Dogwood as much as possible. Is this a wide open district, maybe with the exception of William Campbell, where you wouldn't be shocked if anybody from this district got a victory against anybody else, particularly that top cluster of teams?
Yeah, I felt that way leaving Dogwood District Media Day. Definitely, I think the coaches kind of gave off that perspective that felt like it was a really open top of the district. Last year, 3 teams split the top spot. You think about Alta Vista, Gretna, and Appomattox County. Gretna, of those 3 teams, Gretna certainly lost the most. They lost a whole lot at quarterback with Rayshawn Logan, who I think was pound for pound probably the best quarterback in the Lynchburg area, at least in this, in our newspapers coverage area. I think he's probably one of the most electric quarterbacks to watch when he was playing, teams in Class 2 and teams in the Dogwood District. And then I think with Alta Vista, they lose a lot of skill talent, but they bring their quarterback back. They bring a lot of really important defensive players back. I think Alta Vista is certainly going to hang at the top, but I was really feeling good about Appomattox leaving Dogwood District Media Day. I had the chance to see them in their benefit game against LCA this past Friday, and I was really impressed. They took LCA down to a close game. It was 28-21. In the first half, Appomattox was giving LCA just about all you can ask for. And hey, we talk about NFL preseason all the time. What that means, What do benefit scrimmages mean? I can't really tell you. I can just tell you that both team starters were on the field in the first half, and Appomattox looked like a team that was pretty competitive for the entire time. It was tied going into the halftime break, and so I was really impressed by them. Leaving Dogwood District Media Day, I felt like they were, of those three teams that I expected to probably compete for the top spot, I thought they were probably the best of the three. I think I still have that expectation going into the season, but I think Alta Vista, they have a really good coach. And I think it's in general with their quarterback situation, you give them a week to prepare for Appomattox. It's going to be a low scoring, grinded out type of game. I think that might be the game that kind of decides a Dogwood this year. I think Dan River should be improved, but I think Alta Vista and Appomattox are going to be competing for that top spot. And I think the winner of that game is kind of really going to determine who takes its top spot in that district. And if Appomattox can do that, there aren't a whole lot of spots on their schedule that really can trip them up this year.
Bringing off of that, you bridge that to where we are with the Seminole District, which is the bulk of our coverage. Do you worry more about LCA, or are you just more encouraged about Appomattox? What's your assessment of the fact that Appomattox gave LCA a lot? Granted, the Raiders finished strong last year, but many people have LCA in that group with JF and Heritage projected to be at the top of the Seminole.
Yeah, I think I thought about that all weekend. That's a great point. Is a benefit scrimmage, is it extra credit, or is it something that can be held against you? Is it something that you can only earn positive points from, or is it something that you can only earn negative points from? And I came to the conclusion that I think it's extra credit, right? I think LCA, I don't think you take anything away from LCA. We vote in a preseason media poll with the Roanoke Times for a lot of our combined teams across the two coverage areas, and I have LCA number one across the Lynchburg and the Roanoke markets as the number one team in all high school football across those two areas. And I would still stand by that going into week one. I think that the talent level, I think the coaching, even though they're losing Frank Rocco, I think that Tyler Meeks is going to do a good job. I think that they're going to be, probably still the best team. But I think just what I saw from Appomattox was probably the more impressive part from that. And, at the end of the day, LCA still won. You can't hold anything against the team that won the game. And I think for them, what's really going to be good for them is getting Glenver in week one. Glenver is coming off of a state a state runner-up in Class 2. They lost in the state championship game. They really lose a whole lot. They lose their starting quarterback. They lose a whole lot of other key, important pieces from a really special team that was competing at the top of Class 2 for a few seasons. And so I think with LCA, with drawing them in week one, it's really going to be a chance for them to not just, I think LCA will be the favorite in that game. I think LCA will probably win that game, but I think it'll be a chance for LCA to get a team that has a little bit of prestige and a little bit of, postseason success here recently. And for LCA to be able to challenge himself against somebody that has a little bit of a strong standard. It's not just a typical cupcake game out of the gates in week one. I think they're really going to get a test, and I think LCA is going to emerge, and I think they're going to be better for playing that. And I think that's going to be an opportunity for them to really bounce back. At the end of the day, as I mentioned, with the benefit scrimmage, you don't know what you can take away from it. I think you can take away from it that LCA is going to be able to still run the ball. They were able to score on, some really long drives in the first half with running the ball through Mason Gunn. Luke Gaither looks really good. Jordan Burns looks like he's going to be a really good defensive player and have a huge impact in the receiving game for them. And so I wouldn't doubt that LCA still probably going to be the top of the Seminole. But I think you have to think that the gap between them and JF, who I think is in most people's eyes probably the second best team in the area, maybe the second best in the Seminole. I think the gap between those two teams is probably closed going into week one, at least in my opinion.
Fascinating stuff from Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com, who is sharing his opinions today in the Fast Lane. He's got a great article up, by the way, of 4 storylines to watch entering week one. BG, one of those that we'll touch on, urgency games. Not quite the angle that you put, but when you look at urgency games, are the two that come to mind the one that you'll be covering at newsadvance.com, Salem at EC Glass over at City Stadium, and Sharando at Amherst County in terms of chances for the Seminole District teams to make some statements early on?
Yeah, they're going to be huge. Both of those teams need, and then I say those teams, EC Glass and Amherst County, most of those local teams for us, they need those games, not just for their own record, not just for Seminole District perception and Region 4D, PowerPoints, but they just need it for confidence levels. I think Salem, they had a really rocky season last year. I think it was the first time, don't quote me on this, but I think it was the first time in almost 20 years that they missed the region playoffs. It's been a long time since Salem had a 5-5 team. And so for them to, have a rocky year last year, most people expect them to be really improved. They looked good, and they've looked really good in their scrimmages, from what I understand. And so Salem should be a team that should bounce back into that Region 4D playoff picture. EC Glass was on the fringe last year. They were battling with Salem. Amherst County was on the fringe. They were left on the outside looking in. Sharando was one of the better teams in the region. They were a Final Four team in that region, alongside GW, Hanley, and Jefferson Forest. And so I think going back to how important this is going to be for all these teams, for EC Glass, it's going to be an opportunity to earn really important points early in the season against a team you're going to be battling for power points against. You be able, if you're able to bank this win, if you're an EC Glass, you feel really good about yourself going down the stretch. You just need to pluck off a few wins in Seminole District play to really feel comfortable. But this would be a big not program changing, but it would be a season building win for this team at EC Glass. And then I think for Amherst County, Sharando is a lot better than I think people kind of give them credit for last year. They ran into some tough challenges in Region 4D last year, but they really put it on Amherst last year. I think it was a 49-0 score. So I think in general for Amherst, they got to show improvement. And they really got to show urgency. I mean, if they're able to get this win, that would really change the perception about them, not just because of the points they would earn, but I think it would really change the conversation about, okay, are they better than EC Glass? Do they belong in the conversation of the top 4, top 3 of the Seminole District? So this would be a good statement opportunity for both of those teams. And I think if I had to predict them, I would probably say Sharando and EC Glass win, just because I think EC Glass has the benefit of home field. But Salem, from what I understand of their benefit games and kind of what they have coming back this year, I would look to them to be one of the most improved teams in that region. I think you're looking at, you could see them being a top 4 team in that region at the end of the day, just kind of based off of, what they are expected to be bouncing back with this year.
Bryson Gordon from newsadvance.com is with us in the fast lane. BG, you've got a number of great stories that you're following. We're not going to hog the spotlight because we encourage our listeners to read at newsadvance.com. Are the low-key most intriguing games of opening weekend Brookville at Appomattox and Central Lunenburg at Alta Vista, given the two home teams looking to kind of prove that they're back where they historically have been?
Yeah, Central coming to Alta Vista is going to be a good one. Both of those teams played last year. It was a really good game. And Central won, 11 games last year. They were a really good team. And so for Alta Vista to be able to test themselves against a really quality team out of the gates in week 1, considering all they're losing at their skill positions with guys like Christian Garvin and Jamari Slayton, it's going to be a good chance for them to get right. I think that they're going to be, a really quality team this year. I think, as I mentioned, probably top 2 in that Dogwood District conversation right there with Appomattox. And then the Brookville Appomattox game, I would like to be there. I'm going to be there at the EC Glass Salem game. But I think in general, that might be one of the second best games, especially when you think about what Appomattox did against LCA in the scrimmage. I think it really is going to be a chance for Appomattox to maybe make a statement against a Seminole team and knock off a team like, Brookville, who's in that Region 3C as well. We know Brookville can't make the playoffs this year, but I think for them, they've been harping on getting that winning season. That's something that their coach, Dustin Russell, and the players really talked about at Seminole District Media Day. So for them, I think getting a win over Appomattox really sets a tone for that. It makes the math to get the 6 wins a whole lot easier when you can bank one in week 1, especially when you think about some of the tough teams in the Seminole they're going to play, playing LCA, playing Jefferson Forest, playing Heritage. So the more wins they can bank in the non-district, that's going to be better for this Brookville team, who I think a lot of people in the area will be rooting for because they feel bad for them. I think that the situation is kind of, interesting with the, you look into the situation with them being banned for the postseason. A lot of people have mentioned they feel bad for them, but I think with this team, you got to feel inspired for the players if they're able to go out there and maybe put together a 7-win season or something really cool like that and go out on a high note, considering the unfortunate nature of not being able to play in the playoffs.
BG, Bryson Gordon, second best, maybe a game, but first best premium insight at newsadvance.com because it's always top notch. BG, we appreciate your time running the gamut on the Flames and high school football as we start this season. We can basically say it. We made it.
We made it. We made it through a long winter, a long, dark winter. Even though I like baseball, it's not dark, but we made it through a long winter.
We did. We made it. Now we're here, BG. We appreciate it. We'll see you at some games coming up. And I guess next time I see you will be next Tuesday or whenever Liberty's next media availability is, since you won't be joining me down in Gretna for JF Cavalier football presented by Trostall.com.
Maybe we'll have a quarterback next Tuesday. Maybe we'll hear a quarterback announcement.
Yes, we'll be keeping a lock to social media for the national people that get the agent leaks to break that. No shots fired at anybody in the fast lane. BG, thank you for your time. We'll chat again.
Yeah, talk to you next week.
Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com, with us here in the fast lane. Great way to look at the start of the high school football season. At some point, we'll link up with Bob Alvis to preview it. We've got NASCAR talk coming tomorrow. We've got a Wahoo Wednesday on a Thursday because we're crazy like that. If you missed anything, Fastlane, Headlane, wherever you listen to podcasts, We're back tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock. Thanks for listening to The Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynchburg.